When nothing works, when every effort feels heavier than the last, there's a hidden shift that changes everything. Within the power shift lies the quiet understanding that turns struggle into ease and resistance into flow. Learn it silently and keep this a secret, because some truths lose their power when spoken. The Power Shift. Introduction. You stand at the threshold of understanding, a place where your previous efforts dissolve and a new perception emerges. The universe does not respond to your words or even your thoughts, but to the energetic signature beneath them. When you have been pushing, struggling, forcing, you have been speaking a language of resistance that the cosmos cannot translate into manifestation. Imagine your inner state as a broadcast signal. Every tension, every doubt, every fearful expectation sends out a frequency that attracts precisely what you are most afraid of experiencing. The law of attraction is not a mechanism of punishment, but a perfect reflection, a mirror showing you the internal landscape you have constructed. Your power resides not in controlling external circumstances, but in transforming your internal state. When you shift from a stance of desperation to one of quiet trust, something profound happens. The energy of struggle dissolves, and in its place emerges a calm knowing that you are fundamentally supported by the universe. This is not about positive thinking. It is about authentic alignment. It means releasing the grip of fear and allowing yourself to be carried by a deeper intelligence. Your efforts do not create miracles. Your state of being attracts them. The moment you stop fighting reality and start flowing with it, everything changes. Your resistance drops, and in that spaciousness, magic begins to unfold. The universe does not hear your words. It feels your vibration. Before we get into the book, comment "I am ready" to affirm your intention to the universe. Part 1. The Turning Inward. Chapter 1. The door you forgot was open. You might believe success is born from relentless pushing, from grinding yourself into exhaustion. But the universe whispers a different truth, a truth Eleanor Rossi would soon understand. Eleanor's tiny bakery stood as a monument to her dreams, yet everything seemed to crumble around her. Her ovens broke with alarming frequency, staff members vanished just when she needed them most, and her carefully hoarded savings dwindled like morning mist. Each setback felt like a personal betrayal, each failure a harsh reminder of her limitations. One quiet afternoon, something shifted. Overwhelmed and depleted, Eleanor stopped fighting. She stopped planning. She simply surrendered. In that moment of complete stillness, something remarkable happened. The tension that had gripped her body dissolved. Her breath became soft, her shoulders relaxed, and an unexpected peace settled into her spirit, a tranquility she hadn't experienced since childhood. Without strategizing, without forcing, she discovered a profound truth. Alignment happens when you stop demanding and start allowing. Customers began finding her bakery again, not through aggressive marketing, but through an unexplainable magnetism. Her pastries seemed more delicious, her space more inviting. The same mysterious principle unfolded for Patrick Amato, a painter who had lost his creative spark. Exhausted by trying to create marketable art, he began painting purely for joy. No expectations, no pressure, just gentle exploration. Suddenly, his artwork started selling. Galleries called, Collectors sought his pieces, not because he chased success, but because he had rediscovered the pure essence of his craft. Both Eleanor and Patrick unveiled a hidden universal law. Energy creates reception, not effort. When you release the grip of desperate striving, you open space for magic to emerge. Practice resting in your breath for 5 peaceful minutes, and let gratitude melt every thought of force until what once felt blocked begins to unfold. Chapter 2. The Magic Beneath Silence. You stand at the threshold of understanding, where the noise of seeking dissolves into the pure frequency of being. Clara Van's journey mirrors your own, a relentless pursuit of transformation through external methods. Each technique another layer of complexity, obscuring the simplest truth. Like many who walk the path of spiritual awakening, Clara had tried every method. Affirmations whispered at dawn, vision boards plastered with dreams, meditation apps promising instant enlightenment. Yet peace remained elusive, a distant melody just beyond hearing. Then came the moment of surrender. In a quiet park, surrounded by swaying trees and open sky, Clara discovered something profound. The wind moved through the branches, not forcing its way, but flowing naturally. In that instant, she understood. True alignment is not about controlling life, but allowing it. Stillness, she realized, was not an empty void, but a vibrant, living presence. It was not the absence of thought, but a state of pure receptivity. Each breath became a portal, each moment an invitation to return to her essential nature. Your own journey echoes Clara's. The universe speaks not through complexity, but through simplicity. When you stop pushing, when you cease the frantic searching, something miraculous occurs. Creation begins to reorganize around your newfound peace. Consider Henry Moretti, a mechanic whose life transformed through a simple shift of attention. Weighed down by financial stress, he made one radical choice: to stop complaining and start noticing. He saw the precision of his tools, felt the warmth of sunlight on his workshop floor, listened to the genuine laughter of colleagues. Within weeks, unexpected opportunities emerged. Clients appeared, contracts materialized, abundance flowed where once there was only struggle. Henry's experience reveals a universal principle. What you consistently focus on expands, and gratitude is the most powerful lens of attraction. Your power lies not in forcing outcomes, but in becoming a clear, calm receptor. The universe responds to your vibrational signature, not your desperate efforts, but your quiet trust. Practice pausing. Throughout your day, pause. Breathe softly. Listen beneath the chatter of thoughts for the subtle hum of being. Let peace become your magnetic center, drawing experiences that mirror your inner stillness. Breathe, notice, allow. Chapter 3. The Unseen Hand. You stand at the threshold of transformation, where the old patterns of forcing and controlling begin to dissolve, revealing a more elegant dance with life's unfolding. Nora DeLuca had always been a master strategist, her life a meticulously planned spreadsheet of ambitions and timelines. Every detail was calculated, every moment scripted, yet something always seemed to slip through her fingers. The more tightly she gripped her plans, the more they unraveled like fragile threads. One morning, exhausted by her relentless plotting, Nora whispered something different into the quiet of her apartment. "Show me," she said softly to the universe, releasing her grip on how things must unfold. It was not a surrender of defeat, but an invitation of openness. Something shifted. Opportunities began appearing without her hunting them down. A colleague mentioned a project perfectly aligned with her skills. A networking contact reached out with an unexpected recommendation. Where she once would have aggressively pursued each lead, she now moved with a fluid grace, responding rather than controlling. The core teaching crystallized within her. Surrender is not passivity, but a profound participation. It is stepping into life's current instead of trying to swim against it, trusting that the river knows its path. Meanwhile, Raymond Caruso, a musician whose creative spark had dimmed, found himself at a similar crossroads. His once vibrant compositions had become mechanical, his passion buried beneath layers of professional expectations. One afternoon, guided by a whisper of intuition, he called an old friend he hadn't spoken to in years. That seemingly random connection sparked something miraculous. His friend knew of a collaborative opportunity that would become the catalyst for Raymond's most authentic album. The music flowed from a place of genuine connection and unexpected synchronicity. Raymond's journey revealed a fundamental truth. When curiosity replaces control, unseen forces of coordination begin to dance around you. The universe conspires in whispers, not shouts, and it responds to those willing to listen. Practice saying, "Show me," softly each morning, and feeling genuine willingness for guidance as your heart opens to support already arranged for you. Chapter 4. Water Always Finds a Way. In the quiet rhythm of life's unfolding, you will discover that your most profound achievements emerge not from relentless pushing, but from a graceful surrender to the universe's intricate design. Consider Lottie Mancini, a designer whose passion burned so intensely that she nearly extinguished her own creative flame. She had been hammering at her business like a sculptor forcing shape from unyielding stone, her marketing efforts becoming a frantic dance of desperation. Each email, each social media post, each carefully crafted pitch felt like rowing against a powerful current. Exhaustion crept into her bones, and her spirit grew weary from the constant struggle. The harder she pushed, the more her dreams seemed to slip away, like water through tightly clenched fingers. Then came her moment of surrender. Not defeat, but a profound release. She stopped, breathed, allowed. Days after stepping back, a friend, almost as if guided by an unseen hand, mentioned her name to a potential client. Then another, and another. Opportunities began flowing not through her force, but through the natural channels of connection and ease. The universe whispers its wisdom through such moments. Creation is not a battle to be won, but a dance to be experienced. Your intentions are seeds. They require nurturing, not violent excavation. Alfred Romano understood this principle through a different lens. For years, the ocean had been his greatest fear, a turbulent monster that threatened to consume him. He had fought against its waves, tensing every muscle, believing survival meant constant struggle. But one summer morning, something shifted. Instead of fighting, he learned to float, to trust, to allow the water's natural rhythm to support him. His body, once rigid with fear, became soft, responsive. His laughter echoed across the waves, a testament to the power of releasing control. In that moment of buoyancy, Alfred realized life's most profound lessons. Resistance creates suffering, while acceptance creates freedom. The ocean, like the universe, does not require your constant management. It simply asks that you trust its inherent intelligence. These stories are mirrors reflecting a universal truth. Your most powerful creation happens not through force, but through alignment. You are not meant to wrestle with life, but to dance with it. Practice picturing every goal as water that seeks its natural current through you, feeling your body soften as you float upon your intentions instead of swimming against them. Chapter 5. The Whisper Behind Worry. You stand at the threshold of understanding, where the currents of life flow not through force, but through trust. Margaret Vitale's journey illuminates a profound truth that has echoed through the chambers of wisdom since time immemorial. Your inner landscape shapes the external world with remarkable precision. Margaret had been a maestro of worry, conducting an orchestra of anxieties that played a relentless symphony of potential disasters. Her mind was a turbulent sea, waves of doubt crashing against the shores of her potential. Each morning, she would wake and inventory the potential catastrophes, financial ruin, relationship collapse, professional failure, mapping out worst-case scenarios with surgical precision. But on this particular morning, something shifted. As her mind began its habitual race through potential calamities, she paused. A whisper emerged from the depths of her being. What if all is fine? It was not a question born of naive optimism, but of profound spiritual insight. Instantly, the energy around her changed. The heavy clouds of anxiety began to dissipate, revealing a sky of unexpected clarity. Her racing thoughts slowed, and a sense of calm descended, not as a visitor, but as a returning resident. This moment revealed a universal teaching. Worry emits a signal of deep distrust to the universe. It broadcasts a frequency of lack, of impending doom, effectively blocking the very abundance and peace you seek. When faith replaces fear, results arrive unannounced, like gentle messengers carrying unexpected gifts. Nearby, Joseph Conte wrestled with similar internal storms. His relationship trembled under the weight of his constant anxiety about potential loss, but he discovered a transformative practice. Each morning, he began to see his partner through the lens of gratitude. Instead of focusing on potential conflicts or imagined betrayals, Joseph chose to appreciate the love present in his life. He would breathe deeply, visualizing his partner with warmth, remembering the moments of connection, the shared laughter, the quiet intimacies. Remarkably, as his internal landscape shifted, the external relationship transformed. Arguments that once seemed inevitable melted away, replaced by understanding and connection. This reveals a profound truth. Gratitude amplifies faith faster than logic ever can. Rational thought builds walls, but gratitude builds bridges. It is the alchemical process that transforms lead-heavy emotions into golden opportunities. The universe responds not to your words, but to the frequency of your being. When you replace fear with faith, when you choose trust over control, you become a beacon of possibility. Practice replacing each fearful thought with, "What if this works perfectly?" breathing the relief until peace resumes its rightful frequency. Chapter 6. The Seed Already Knows. You know the rhythm of life's unfolding is never linear, but a dance of subtle energies and patient emergence. Consider Hazel Bellini, whose garden became a testament to the art of releasing control. Exhausted by her constant vigilance, she had planted her herb seeds with meticulous care, checking them daily with an anxious heart. Each morning, she would crouch beside the carefully tilled earth, searching for the slightest sign of green, her impatience growing with each passing day. When nothing appeared, frustration consumed her. She decided to travel, leaving behind what she believed were dormant, perhaps dead seeds. Weeks passed, and her mind wandered far from the small patch of earth she had so carefully prepared. Upon returning, Hazel discovered something miraculous. Her garden had transformed. Herbs, fragrant basil, robust rosemary, delicate thyme, now flourished in abundant clusters. They had grown not through her constant watching, but in the quiet of her absence. The seeds had found their rhythm, sprouting precisely when conditions were perfect. This was no accident, but a profound demonstration of universal wisdom. Manifestation does not bow to human impatience. It follows its own sacred timing, unfolding in moments of trust and surrender. George Spadafora understood this lesson differently. A man once trapped in the rigid framework of deadlines and forced progress, he learned that true creation cannot be commanded. His projects, once strangled by his relentless pushing, began to bloom when he learned to step back and trust the process. George realized that nurturing is not constant interference, but creating space for natural growth. Like a gardener who knows when to water and when to wait, he discovered that some of life's most beautiful outcomes require nothing more than patient faith. The universe whispers its secrets to those who can be still enough to listen. Your desires are seeds already planted in the fertile ground of potential. They do not need your constant scrutiny, but your trust. Practice letting your desires rest like seeds, feeling them safe beneath invisible soil, whispering trust instead of timeline pressure. Imagine your desires as seeds already placed beneath the earth. Nothing visible proves their progress, yet unseen work may still be happening. Roots forming, conditions changing, timing unfolding beyond observation. Not every meaningful beginning announces itself early. Some things deepen in silence before they rise. Timeline pressure often asks, why not yet? How much longer? Trust whispers a different language. It is allowed to grow unseen. Releasing urgency does not mean losing hope. It means letting hope rest. A seed is not inactive because it is hidden. Waiting can hold movement that the surface cannot measure. When a wish returns to your mind, meet it gently. Picture covering it with warm soil rather than pulling it up to inspect its growth. Then offer a quieter response than certainty. You are safe. You do not need to hurry. I can trust what I cannot currently see. Chapter 7. The mirror becomes you. In the intricate tapestry of human experience, you stand at a pivotal moment where perception becomes creation and judgment transforms into your most potent alchemical tool. The universe listens not to your words, but to the vibration beneath them, the silent frequency of your inner landscape. Beatrice Marino lived trapped in a world of blame, her energy constricted by the belief that external circumstances controlled her destiny. Each morning, she awoke rehearsing narratives of limitation, how her colleagues undermined her, how opportunities consistently eluded her grasp. Her resentment was a heavy cloak, blocking the very light she desperately sought. One unremarkable Tuesday, something within her shifted. Perhaps it was exhaustion from carrying such dense energy, or a whisper from her deeper wisdom. Instead of cataloging her grievances, she chose to bless, not with grand gestures, but with quiet, internal acknowledgement of the humanity around her. May they be well, she began silently when encountering a dismissive manager. May they find peace, she thought when remembering a colleague who had seemingly blocked her advancement. Each blessing was a gentle release, a soft untangling of the knots of resentment she had woven so tightly. Gradually, her internal landscape transformed. The mirror of reality, which had always reflected her inner state, began to shimmer with new possibilities. Opportunities emerged not through struggle, but through the spaciousness created by her shifted perception. Leonard Grasso walked a similar path in his corporate environment. Perpetually critical, he had constructed elaborate narratives about his co-workers' incompetence. His judgments were sharp weapons that ultimately wounded only himself, creating invisible barriers to his own advancement. When Leonard began practicing silent kindness, something remarkable occurred. Instead of mentally dissecting his colleagues' perceived shortcomings, he started seeing their potential. His internal dialogue softened. May they succeed, he would think, watching a junior colleague's presentation. May they discover their strengths. The energetic shift was subtle yet profound. Promotions that had seemed impossible suddenly materialized. Collaborations that once felt forced now flowed with unexpected ease. Leonard discovered that his perception was not a passive window, but an active paintbrush coloring his entire reality. The universal law reveals itself through such transformations. What you hold internally manifests externally. Your judgments are not neutral observations, but creative acts that shape your experience. Every critical thought is a seed, every blessing a potential garden. Practice blessing 3 people silently each day until goodwill becomes instinct and reality gleams accordingly. Chapter 8. You are not broken. You stand at the threshold of a profound realization. The mirror of your life reflects not your flaws, but your inner dialogue. Delia Romano's journey illuminates a universal truth that has remained hidden from most. Your perception of yourself creates the very reality you experience. For years, Delia had been her own harshest critic. Each morning, she would catalog her perceived shortcomings, the career opportunities missed, the relationships that dissolved, the dreams that seemed perpetually out of reach. She believed her life was a testament to her fundamental inadequacy, a narrative written in the ink of self-doubt. But the universe whispers differently. It speaks a language of unconditional acceptance, of seeing yourself not as a collection of failures, but as a sacred being of infinite potential. One quiet evening, as moonlight cascaded through her window, Delia heard this whisper. It emerged not from external voices, but from the deepest chamber of her own heart. Nothing about you requires fixing, the inner wisdom said. You are not a problem to be solved, but a miracle waiting to be recognized. In that moment, something shifted. The weight of perpetual self-improvement fell away. She saw how her constant attempts to correct herself had been a form of resistance, pushing away the very abundance she desired. Lawrence Capri's story echoed this revelation. Burdened by past mistakes, he had carried shame like a heavy cloak. Each misstep seemed to confirm his belief that he was fundamentally unworthy. But when he finally extended forgiveness to himself, something miraculous occurred. The moment Lawrence looked in the mirror and saw not his errors but his inherent worth, the universe responded. Opportunities he had never imagined began to emerge. Connections reformed. His energy, no longer contracted by self-judgment, expanded into possibility. The teaching is crystal clear. Alignment begins with compassion. Not the compassion that pities, but the compassion that recognizes your intrinsic wholeness. Your worth is not earned. It simply is. When you judge yourself, you create a frequency of lack. When you accept yourself, you become a magnet for grace. Practice whispering, "I am enough right now," until tears release the tension masquerading as improvement. Chapter 9. The Ease of Letting Others Be. You carry wounds from believing transformation happens through force. Control masquerades as love, but it is truly fear wearing a compassionate mask. When you attempt to reshape another's journey, you disconnect from the most powerful energy of all, unconditional acceptance. Paula Fiore understood this lesson through exhaustion. For years, she had been the family's unsolicited guide, dispensing advice like bitter medicine. Her siblings would withdraw, her parents would sigh, and her friends would gradually distance themselves. Each intervention came from a place of genuine care, yet the impact was erosion, not elevation. One autumn afternoon, after another failed attempt to help her younger brother restructure his career, Paula felt a profound emptiness. Her well-intentioned guidance had created walls where she hoped to build bridges. In that moment of quiet reflection, she realized true love is not correction, but presence. The universe whispers its wisdom through surrender. Detachment is not indifference. It is the highest form of respect. When you trust another's path, you acknowledge their inner guidance, their inherent wisdom. Control stems from fear. Fear that without your intervention, things might go wrong. But life's intelligence is far more sophisticated than your limited perspective. Vincent Morano discovered this truth with his own brother. Years of critiquing, suggesting, and pushing had created a chasm of resentment. The moment Vincent stopped trying to redesign his brother's life, something miraculous occurred. Conversations became lighter, connections deepened, and, unexpectedly, his brother began making choices that previously seemed impossible. Your attempts to manage another's journey are like trying to force a flower to bloom by pulling its petals. Growth happens naturally when conditions are right, when space is provided, when love is unconditional. Each person carries an internal compass, a sacred navigation system far more intricate than external guidance. The teaching is clear. Detachment is sacred generosity. When you release your grip on how things should be, you open space for miracles. Your love becomes a gentle breeze rather than a constraining wind, allowing others the dignity of their own unfolding. Practice sending silent appreciation toward anyone you once tried to control, watching freedom return to both hearts. Bring to mind someone you once wished would change, understand, stay, leave, choose differently, or become who you hoped they might be. Without revisiting every conflict, send a quiet appreciation, not for pain or disappointment, but for what their presence revealed, taught, or awakened. Appreciation here is not agreement. It is acknowledgement. Control often grows from fear, longing, or the wish to protect an outcome. Releasing that grip can feel unfamiliar. Silently offering thoughts like, "May you be free to become who you are," allows space where pressure once lived. In that space, freedom may begin returning not only to them, but to the part of you that carried the weight of managing what was never fully yours to hold. Notice how the heart changes when it no longer bargains with the past or insists on a different version of another person. Freedom does not erase care. Sometimes it refines care into something lighter. Respect without possession, memory without restraint, and goodwill that no longer depends on direction or return. Chapter 10. The Smile That Starts Creation. You have carried the weight of control like an ancient armor, believing that managing every detail would shield you from uncertainty. But what if true protection lies not in rigid manipulation, but in the soft surrender of genuine joy? Ruby Paterno understood this revelation through her struggle with manifestation. She had recited affirmations countless times. I am abundant. Prosperity flows to me. Yet her words rang hollow, mere mechanical utterances devoid of true feeling. Her attempts felt like whispering into a void, her energy constrained and her spirit unconvinced. Then something shifted. One morning, while repeating her affirmation, Ruby caught her reflection and genuinely smiled, not a forced grimace, but a true, radiant expression that emerged from a place of inner peace. Her eyes sparkled, her heart lightened, and suddenly the words carried a different resonance. They were no longer commands, but celebrations. The universe responds not to words, but to the energy behind them. Emotion is the voltage that transforms thought into reality. When you infuse your intentions with authentic joy, you become a beacon of attraction, drawing experiences that match your vibration. Samuel Lucente learned this wisdom through his own journey. Facing financial scarcity, he would typically tense with worry, his wallet a symbol of lack. But something told him to try a different approach. One afternoon, looking at his empty wallet, he smiled, a smile of genuine trust, of knowing that resources flow beyond physical evidence. His smile wasn't denial of current circumstances, but an acknowledgement of something deeper, the abundant nature of the universe. He trusted not because money was immediately visible, but because he understood that joy itself was wealth. Days later, unexpected funds appeared. A refund, a surprise opportunity, a gift that seemed to materialize from thin air. Samuel's smile had been the bridge between his current reality and his desired outcome. The teaching awakens a profound truth. Joy is not a result of abundance, but its precursor. When you smile from a place of authentic trust, you signal to the universe that you are already whole, already supported, already rich in spirit. Your emotions are not passive experiences but active creators. They are the paintbrush with which you color your reality, the frequency that attracts corresponding experiences. Genuine joy is not about forcing positivity, but about trusting the inherent goodness of existence. Practice smiling from your heart before every thought of lack until your face remembers abundance as your true default. Part 2. The Dance of Alignment. Chapter 11. The Voice Between Thoughts. You have carried within you the echoes of guidance since birth, though perhaps you've been listening with the wrong ears. Cora Bianchi knew this struggle intimately. Her life felt like a labyrinth of uncertainty, each turn clouded by doubt and internal noise. For years she had sought clarity through loud methods, self-help seminars, frantic journaling, endless conversations dissecting her challenges. Yet wisdom never arrived through volume, but through the softest of whispers. One ordinary morning, between her habitual worries and scattered thoughts, Cora noticed something different. A gentle sensation emerged, not a thunderous revelation, but a quiet knowing. It felt like a soft breeze moving through her consciousness, carrying subtle insights. She realized divine communication doesn't scream, it murmurs. It doesn't demand attention, but waits patiently to be heard when the internal noise subsides. These whispers arrive when you create space, when your mind becomes a tranquil lake instead of a turbulent ocean. Theodore Greco understood this principle intimately. A sales consultant accustomed to aggressive strategies, he had learned that true connection happens in moments of genuine listening. When an unexpected intuition suggested calling an unknown potential client, something he would have normally dismissed, he followed the gentle nudge. That single call transformed everything. The unknown client wasn't just a business prospect, but a gateway to opportunities Theodore could never have strategized or forced into existence. The universe, he realized, coordinates more effectively than any human plan when you learn to trust its subtle guidance. Your inner whispers are not random thoughts, but carefully crafted messages from a wisdom far beyond your immediate perception. They arrive when you stop demanding and start listening, when you replace control with curiosity. The teaching crystallizes. Inspiration speaks in subtlety, not volume. Your most profound insights will not arrive with fanfare, but with a gentle touch, like morning dew settling on a leaf, like a soft breath moving through silent spaces. Practice writing your morning thoughts freely and recognizing which arise calmly. They are the universe's answers. Begin the morning by writing without editing, correcting, or deciding which thoughts deserve attention. Let worries, plans, fragments, and ordinary observations arrive as they are. The page can hold urgency without needing to obey it. Often, the loudest thoughts carry pressure, while quieter ones arrive without insisting. After writing, notice which ideas feel calm rather than forceful. Not necessarily positive, just steady. A thought that says rest more, call someone, keep going, or release this may arrive without tension attached. Whether understood as intuition, inner wisdom, or something larger, calmness can sometimes signal a different quality of knowing than fear or urgency. Treat these quieter impressions gently. There is no need to declare every peaceful thought a message from the universe, nor dismiss them entirely. The value may be in learning the texture of your own inner clarity, the voice that does not rush, persuade, or panic, yet remains present beneath the noise. Chapter 12. Everything is responding. In the intricate dance of energy and perception, you stand at a crossroads where your inner dialogue becomes the architect of your external reality. The universe listens not to your words, but to the vibration beneath them, a truth Daphne Bianco would soon discover in her own transformative journey. Each morning, Daphne's commute was a symphony of frustration. Traffic lights seemed conspired against her. Slow drivers appeared deliberately placed to test her patience, and every delay felt like a personal assault. Her muttered complaints created a dense cloud of negative energy, attracting precisely what she feared: late meetings, missed opportunities, and mounting stress. But something shifted when Daphne began to experiment with a radical approach. Instead of resisting the traffic, she started blessing each moment of delay. Where once she would grumble about a red light, she now whispered, "Thank you for this moment of pause. I trust in perfect timing. Her breath softened, her shoulders relaxed, and something extraordinary began to unfold. Gradually, her external world began to mirror her internal transformation. Meetings that once seemed destined to be disrupted now flowed with unexpected grace. Clients who might have been irritated by potential tardiness now arrived with understanding and calm. The traffic, which had seemed her enemy, now felt like a gentle guide redirecting her toward alignment. Around the same time, Arthur Palladino was wrestling with his own resistance, this time against technology. His computer, old and temperamental, would freeze at critical moments, testing his patience and triggering waves of frustration. But Arthur decided to experiment with a different approach, inspired by whispers of energetic alignment. Instead of cursing his slow computer, Arthur began speaking to it with genuine appreciation. "Thank you for supporting my work," he would say when it hesitated. "I appreciate your effort." He visualized the machine working perfectly, his tone calm and grateful. Where anger once lived, he cultivated a sense of partnership and respect. Remarkably, the computer's performance began to improve. What seemed like technological resistance started to dissolve. Updates happened more smoothly. Processing speeds increased, and Arthur found himself experiencing a newfound harmony with his tools. These stories illuminate a profound universal truth. Your vibrational tone, not external circumstances, determines your experience. When you shift from resistance to appreciation, from frustration to trust, the world around you must recalibrate to match your new frequency. Practice affirming, "Everything is responding kindly to my energy," noticing subtle improvements unfold effortlessly. Chapter 13. The Currency of Belief. In the vast landscape of financial energy, you stand at a critical threshold where perception transforms reality. Every moment you breathe carries the potential to reshape your relationship with abundance, and Ellen Russo's journey illuminates this profound truth. Ellen had spent years chasing money, her hands calloused from relentless work, her spirit weary from constant striving. She understood labor, but had never truly comprehended flow. Traditional wisdom told her more hours equaled more income, yet her bank account remained stubbornly unchanged. The turning point emerged not through additional effort, but through a radical inner shift. Ellen began practicing a different emotional landscape, one of sufficiency rather than scarcity. She closed her eyes each morning and allowed herself to feel what enough truly meant. Not desperate wanting, but calm knowing. "I am supported," she would whisper. "Resources flow to me effortlessly." Initially, these words felt like distant fantasies, but with consistent practice, something subtle began to change. The tension in her shoulders softened. Her breathing became less constricted. The very energy around her money conversations transformed. Weeks passed, and unexpected opportunities emerged. A freelance contract arrived unexpectedly. A client recommended her services to a network of contacts. Small synchronicities began weaving themselves into her financial narrative, each confirming her internal shift. The universe, she realized, was not a distant, indifferent mechanism, but a responsive intelligence that listened intently to her vibrational broadcast. Money was not something to be chased, but a current to be aligned with. Anthony Vaccaro's story mirrored this truth. While preparing dinner one evening, He allowed himself to fully imagine a state of financial ease. No struggle, no desperation, just calm certainty. He pictured himself debt-free, not as a distant dream, but as a present reality. Weeks later, unexpected refunds arrived. An accounting error in his favor, a forgotten insurance claim, small rivers of money flowing toward him, not through force, but through belief. The teaching crystallized. Money is energy. It responds not to hard work alone, but to the frequency of your inner state. When you truly feel abundant, abundance finds you. Your relationship with resources is never about the external circumstances, but about the internal landscape you cultivate. Belief is the bridge between potential and manifestation. Practice, feeling the comfort of enoughness now, until relief softens all tension about resources. Notice what is already supporting you in this moment. Air arriving without effort, a place to sit or stand, the body continuing many tasks without instruction, one thing within reach that serves you. Enoughness does not always mean having everything desired. Sometimes it begins with recognizing what is presently carrying you. The mind often scans for absence while overlooking existing support. Tension around resources can grow from constantly measuring what might run out or what is still missing. Relief enters differently. It asks whether, for this breath, for this hour, something may already be sufficient. Not permanently, not perfectly, just enough for now. That distinction can soften urgency without denying genuine needs or ambitions. Allow the feeling of enough for this moment to settle gradually, rather than forcing belief. The body often understands relief before the mind agrees. As tension loosens, there may be a quieter relationship with desire, pursuing more when needed, while no longer living as though worth, safety, or peace depend entirely on the next acquisition. Before we get into the next chapter, you can download a free ebook version of this audiobook using the link in the pinned comment below this video. Chapter 14. The Gift of Non-Resistance. You have been taught that success follows a narrow, predetermined path, a rigid road with strict markers and immovable signposts. But the universe whispers a different wisdom. True abundance dances, shifts, and breathes with remarkable fluidity. Harriet Romano knew only one way forward. Her life was a meticulously mapped journey, each step calculated, each possibility pre-examined and vetted. Control was her companion, anxiety her constant shadow. Every deviation felt like potential disaster. Every unexpected turn a threat to her carefully constructed reality. But life has its own rhythm, beyond human planning. When Harriet's meticulously planned consulting project suddenly collapsed, her first instinct was panic. Years of strategic preparation seemed to crumble in moments, yet something unusual happened in her moment of surrender. Instead of fighting the dissolution, she paused. She breathed. She allowed. In that breath of acceptance, something miraculous emerged. A colleague she hadn't spoken with in years called with an unexpected opportunity, different from her original plan, but infinitely more aligned with her true capabilities. The path hadn't disappeared. It had transformed. The universe does not respond to force. It responds to openness. Peter D'Angelo understood this principle through his own journey. A project manager accustomed to controlling every minute detail, he discovered wisdom in relaxation. When travel delays interrupted his carefully scheduled meetings, he stopped resisting. Instead of anger, he welcomed the unexpected pause. During one such delay, he struck up a conversation with a fellow traveler who introduced him to a network that would change his entire professional trajectory. The very interruption he once would have cursed became his gateway to unexpected abundance. Your rigidity is what blocks your flow. Your resistance is what creates the very obstacles you fear. The teaching is simple yet profound. Success is not a straight line, but a living, breathing current. It moves through you when you trust its intelligence more than your limited perspective. Flexibility is not weakness. It is the most powerful stance of creation. Your beliefs are the currency that purchases your experience. When you grip too tightly, you close the very channels through which miracles arrive. Practice saying, "I trust the form it arrives in," whenever plans change. Chapter 15. Lightness always leads. You have been carrying tension like a heavy cloak, believing that life's challenges demand constant struggle. But what if the most powerful response is not resistance but release? What if laughter could be your most potent spiritual tool? Tamara Bellucci knew that feeling all too well. Her relationship had grown stale, weighted by unspoken resentments and daily frustrations. Each interaction felt like walking through thick mud, every conversation a battlefield of unresolved expectations. She had tried everything: serious talks, couples therapy, strategic communication, yet nothing seemed to shift the underlying heaviness. Then something unexpected happened. During a moment that would have previously triggered an argument, Tamara chose to laugh. Not a forced chuckle, but a genuine, spontaneous burst of humor that emerged from deep within her. Her partner, startled by her unexpected response, found himself laughing too. In that moment of shared mirth, something magical occurred. The energy between them transformed. The rigid walls of defensiveness melted, replaced by a soft, playful connection. Laughter became a bridge, reconnecting them in ways serious conversations never could. The universe responds to your vibration, not your words. When you lighten your inner landscape, external circumstances must realign. Humor is not an escape from reality, but a powerful method of reshaping it. It dissolves tension, creates space for new possibilities, and signals to the cosmic intelligence that you are not bound by circumstances. Curtis Salerno discovered a similar truth. After a professional setback that would have previously sent him spiraling into weeks of self-criticism, he chose to laugh at the absurdity of the situation. Instead of dwelling on the failure, he found humor in the unexpected twist of events. His lightness of heart became a magnetic force. The very next morning, an opportunity appeared. A job more aligned with his true aspirations than the one he had lost. The universe had been waiting for him to stop wrestling with disappointment and start dancing with possibility. Your emotional state is a transmission, a signal sent out to the invisible networks of creation. When that signal carries joy, lightness, and humor, you become irresistibly attractive to new opportunities. Laughter is not trivial. It is a sophisticated spiritual technology that rewrites your energetic blueprint. Practice finding something genuinely funny daily. Letting joy reset your magnetism. Chapter 16. Choosing the Better Thought. In the intricate dance of consciousness, you stand at a pivotal moment, a crossroads where your inner landscape determines the world you'll inhabit. Virginia Lombardo understood this truth intimately, though she discovered it not through grand revelations, but through subtle, almost imperceptible shifts. Her life had been a series of heavy days, each moment seeming to cascade from one disappointment to another. Mornings arrived with a familiar weight, a grayness that seemed to color everything she touched. She had tried positive thinking, affirmations, meditation, yet something remained blocked, like a river whose natural flow had been obstructed. Then came her quiet revolution. Instead of attempting to leap from despair to euphoria, an impossible gymnastic of emotion, she learned to make microscopic adjustments. When a dark thought arose about her career, she didn't battle it. She simply nudged it slightly, ever so gently, toward something marginally more hopeful. "Perhaps," she whispered to herself, "things aren't as impossible as they seem." This was not forced optimism. This was strategic emotional navigation. Each thought became a gentle steering wheel, capable of making minute corrections that would, over time, dramatically alter her trajectory. The universe listens not to grand declarations, but to the subtle vibrations of your genuine emotional state. Your inner world is a broadcasting station, continuously sending signals that rearrange external circumstances. When you learn to tune that station with care, moving from harsh static to clearer frequencies, miracles begin to assemble themselves around you. Ralph Esposito witnessed a similar transformation. Trapped in a cycle of professional frustration, he had grown accustomed to a low-grade irritation that seemed to repel opportunity. But instead of demanding instant happiness, he practiced incremental emotional mobility. From pure frustration, he allowed himself to drift toward mild curiosity. From curiosity, he permitted a whisper of hope. Each shift was so slight that it might have seemed inconsequential to an outside observer. Yet these microscopic adjustments were tectonic in their potential. Synchronicities began to emerge. Unexpected connections, surprising conversations, subtle openings that had always existed but remained invisible when his emotional frequency was clouded by resistance. You are not meant to force joy, but to allow its natural emergence. Like a gardener who understands that seeds require precise conditions, not aggressive manipulation, you can cultivate your inner terrain with patience and microscopic intention. Your emotions are not random. They are sophisticated communication systems, intricate networks through which the universe speaks to you and through you. When you learn to listen, to make gentle adjustments, to trust the smallest shifts, you become an alchemist of experience. Practice catching one dark thought and gently replacing it with any improved version that feels believable. Chapter 17, Detach to Multiply. In the grand tapestry of universal law, you are learning the most counterintuitive yet profound secret. Desire does not flow through gripping, but through graceful release. Your energy is not a force to be controlled, but a living current that moves with elegant intelligence. Irene Savino understood this truth when her relentless pursuit began consuming her. Every dream she chased seemed to dissolve precisely because her desperation created an energetic wall, blocking the very blessings she sought. Her hands were so tightly wound around her expectations that no space remained for magic to enter. When Irene finally surrendered, not in defeat, but in profound trust, something extraordinary occurred. The tension that had defined her dissolved, and suddenly opportunities emerged from unexpected corners. Her tight grip had been blocking the natural flow of creation, and the moment she loosened her hold, life began to move with astonishing ease. This is not passive resignation, but active trust. Detachment is not about not caring. It's about caring so deeply that you trust the universe's timing more than your own anxious manipulations. Your desires are seeds planted in fertile soil, and obsessive monitoring only disturbs their natural growth. Franklin Carlotto embodied this wisdom in his own journey. Consumed by ambition for workplace advancement, he had been spinning narratives of struggle and competition. Each strategy, each calculated move seemed to push his goal further away. Then something shifted. Instead of forcing outcomes, he began living fully in the present, enjoying moments, cultivating genuine connections, releasing his tight grip on professional advancement. Remarkably, the very promotion he had been desperately chasing materialized effortlessly, not through strategy, but through relaxed alignment. His detachment became the very energy that attracted his heart's desire. The universe operates on principles of flow, not force. When you learn to hold your dreams with an open palm rather than a clenched fist, miracles begin to assemble themselves around you. Your energy becomes an invitation rather than a demand. Practice mentally releasing the outcome of any goal and feeling delight in anticipation without attachment. Choose one goal you care about, something meaningful enough to create excitement, but also enough pressure that you notice yourself clinging to the result. Spend a few minutes imagining the desired outcome as already possible. Then shift attention away from whether it happens and toward who you become while moving toward it. The focus is not indifference or lack of ambition. It is learning to separate effort from emotional dependence on a specific ending. Notice how the body feels when striving softens into openness. Generate anticipation deliberately. Think about future possibilities with curiosity, gratitude, or quiet enthusiasm, while resisting the urge to demand certainty. If thoughts arise like, "I'll be okay only if this works," mentally replace them with, "I can enjoy moving toward this, regardless of timing or form." This builds the ability to hold hope without turning it into pressure. Delight becomes an experience available in the present, not a reward postponed until achievement. At the end of the day, reflect on moments when you sought reassurance through outcomes, approval, success, recognition, control. Without judgment, imagine setting those expectations down for a moment. Ask, what remains when the need to secure the result loosens? Over time, anticipation may start to feel lighter, and goals can become invitations for growth rather than tests of worth. Chapter 18. Receiving Without Guilt. In the quiet corners of her life, Olive Romano had always been uncomfortable with receiving. Like many who carry the weight of perceived self-sufficiency, she believed that accepting help was a sign of weakness, an admission of personal inadequacy. Her hands would reflexively push away kindness, her lips forming polite refusals that masked a deeper resistance. The universe, however, whispers its wisdom through gentle experiences. For Olive, this wisdom arrived not as a thunderous revelation, but as a soft understanding that grew gradually, like moss spreading silently across a stone. One autumn morning, a neighbor brought her homemade soup when she was recovering from a minor illness. Instinctively, Olive began to decline, her words of rejection hovering at her lips. But something stopped her. A breath. A moment of pause. Instead, she looked into her neighbor's eyes and simply said, "Thank you." The simple act felt revolutionary. She noticed how her neighbor's face brightened, how a genuine smile spread across their features. In that moment, Olive understood that receiving was not about weakness, but about honoring the generosity of others. This was the first thread in a transformative understanding. True receptivity is a form of grace. When you receive openly, you create a sacred exchange. You acknowledge the abundance flowing through human connections, allowing energy to circulate freely. As Olive practiced this new way of being, subtle shifts began to emerge. Opportunities she had never noticed before started appearing. Kindnesses that once would have made her uncomfortable now felt like natural expressions of connection. Then came Dominic Costa, whose story mirrored and expanded Olive's journey. A man who had long deflected compliments, he began to recognize that rejecting praise was actually a form of energetic blockage. When someone acknowledged his work or character, he learned to breathe into the moment, to truly hear the words, and to respond with genuine gratitude. "Thank you," he would say, and mean it fully. No qualifications, no diminishing self-talk, just pure reception. The law of attraction, Olive was learning, responds not to struggle or resistance, but to openness. It flows where consciousness creates space. By learning to receive, truly receive, she was expanding her capacity for abundance. Practice saying, "Thank you, I receive," in your heart whenever kindness appears, enlarging capacity for grace. Chapter 19. The Speed of Surrender. In the quiet landscape of your becoming, there exists a hidden current more powerful than constant striving, the river of surrender. Faye DeLorenzo understood this truth not through intellectual understanding, but through a profound lived experience that transformed her relationship with time and opportunity. For years, Faye had been a relentless architect of her own frustration. Her days were meticulously planned, her goals obsessively tracked, her energy constantly pushed toward future victories. She believed success was a battlefield to be conquered, a territory to be claimed through sheer force of will. Each morning she would rise before dawn, charting elaborate strategies, believing that control was the only path to manifestation. Yet the universe had a different lesson waiting. When exhaustion finally cracked her rigid approach, Faye experienced a radical shift. Instead of pushing, she began to listen. Instead of controlling, she started trusting. Her surrender was not weakness, but a profound recognition that life's intelligence far exceeds human planning. Suddenly, opportunities began appearing without her manipulation. Connections emerged effortlessly. Synchronicities replaced strategies. The very moment she stopped trying to force her timeline, life's natural momentum carried her forward with grace and speed impossible through effort alone. Angelo Fontana's journey mirrored this wisdom. An entrepreneur trapped in endless business planning, he discovered that trusting flow was more potent than meticulously crafted strategies. When he released his grip on how things should unfold, an unexpected investor appeared, transforming his vision overnight. The teaching crystallizes a fundamental truth. Surrender is not passive resignation, but active alignment. It is acceleration disguised as stillness, a profound understanding that life responds to your inner state more than your external actions. Your energy, not your efforts, determines the speed and quality of your manifestations. When you relax into trust, you become a clear channel for universal intelligence. The moment you stop wrestling with potential outcomes, you allow miraculous pathways to emerge. Practice exhaling every wish into faith before sleep, trusting tomorrow as ally, not adversary. As night arrives, imagine each wish leaving your breath not as something abandoned, but as something entrusted. The mind often clings tightly to outcomes, rehearsing fears about what tomorrow may withhold. Releasing those hopes into faith creates a quieter relationship with uncertainty, where rest becomes possible because not every answer must be carried into sleep. Trusting tomorrow as an ally changes the way challenges are interpreted. An ally does not promise ease, it offers partnership. Delays may become lessons, unexpected turns may reveal strength, and unanswered questions may invite patience. Seeing the future this way softens the habit of meeting each day as a threat waiting to unfold. Before sleep, a simple rhythm can help. Acknowledge what you hoped for, exhale it gently, and allow yourself to believe that life continues moving even while you rest. Morning then arrives less like a battlefield and more like a conversation, one where possibility has room to speak. Chapter 20. The field remembers joy. In the quiet rhythm of remembering, you stand at the threshold of a profound revelation. Marilyn Piccolo's journey begins not with grand ambitions, but with a simple return to forgotten pleasures. Years of relentless pursuits had buried her childhood spark, those moments of pure, unbridled joy that once defined her essence. One autumn afternoon, she discovered an old watercolor set tucked away in a dusty closet. Her fingers, once nimble with creativity, now trembled slightly as she touched the worn brushes. Without strategy or expectation, she began to paint. Not to sell, not to impress, but simply to feel. The watercolors moved across the paper like whispers of memory. A tree from her childhood backyard, the curve of a river she once loved, the delicate petals of flowers she'd forgotten. Each stroke carried a lightness she hadn't known in years. Her analytical mind, the one that had plotted every career move, calculated every financial decision, grew quiet. Something magical happened in those moments of unstructured play. Her energy shifted. The vibration of joy, pure and unencumbered, began to resonate through her being. It was not about the painting itself, but the state of complete presence she experienced. Weeks later, unexpected opportunities began to appear. A former colleague remembered her creative spirit and recommended her for a project that seemed to materialize from thin air. Connections formed effortlessly. Conversations flowed with a grace that felt almost miraculous. The universe, it seemed, responds to authenticity more than effort. Your joy is not a luxury. It is a powerful transmission of energy that realigns your entire existence. Consider Gregory Marinelli, a corporate executive who had forgotten the language of play. Years of serious ambition had calcified his spirit. Then one evening, music from his youth began to play, a melody that once made his body move with abandon. Without thinking, he began to dance. Not the calculated steps of professional networking, but the wild, unrestrained movement of pure enjoyment. His body remembered something his mind had forgotten. The frequency of happiness attracts more than strategy ever could. The teaching crystallizes. Joy is not a reward for hard work, but the very fuel of creation. When you return to the state of play, you update your vibrational signature faster than 1,000 affirmations. Practice doing one simple act of joy without purpose until presence itself feels like progress. Part 3. Living the Power Shift. Chapter 21. Let energy lead action. You stand at the threshold of understanding a profound universal truth. Action is not merely about movement, but about the energy that propels that movement. The universe whispers its secrets not through grinding effort, but through the gentle pulse of inspired momentum. Louisa Ferraro knew the landscape of frustration intimately. Her days were meticulously planned spreadsheets of ambition, each box checked with mechanical precision, yet her dreams remained stubbornly distant. She would wake before dawn, craft elaborate strategies, map out every potential outcome, and exhaust herself in pursuit of success that perpetually eluded her grasp. But something shifted when Louisa began listening to a different rhythm, the subtle vibration of her inner guidance. Instead of forcing herself through tasks that felt like lead weights, she started waiting for that spark of enthusiasm, that subtle lightness that makes action feel effortless. The first time she honored this inner wisdom, she felt almost rebellious. Leaving half-completed plans untouched, she followed only the actions that made her spirit sing. Surprisingly, these moments of inspired movement produced more substantial results than years of relentless pushing. Her marketing consultancy, once a place of strategic strain, transformed. Clients began calling unexpectedly. Opportunities emerged where previously there had been only resistance. The harder she had tried, the more complex problems became. The more she surrendered to inspired action, the more elegantly solutions presented themselves. Ernest DeVito's story echoed a similar revelation. A graphic designer trapped in corporate monotony, he had grown accustomed to forcing creativity through sheer willpower. But on one seemingly ordinary afternoon, a gentle nudge, almost imperceptible, suggested he visit a local bookstore. Most would have dismissed such an impulse. Ernest, however, was learning to trust these whispers. In that bookstore, surrounded by the quiet rustle of chapters, he encountered a fellow designer who would become the gateway to his dream project, an international creative collaboration that would redefine his career. The teaching crystallizes with stunning simplicity. Inspired action is not about doing more, but about aligning your movement with the universe's subtle guidance. It's a dance of synchronicity, where your inner excitement becomes the compass. When energy feels bright, when a task calls to you with a sense of lightness and possibility, that is the moment to move. When something feels heavy, draining, or forced, it is a signal to pause, to realign, to wait for clarity. Your practice, therefore, becomes an art of discernment. Move only when impulses feel light, almost buoyant. Postpone actions that feel like trudging through mud. Trust that by waiting for alignment, you are not losing time but gaining precision. Practice moving only on impulses that feel light and postponing action that feels heavy until alignment returns. Chapter 22. The Grace of Recalibration. You stand at the crossroads of perception, where every seemingly wrong turn whispers a deeper wisdom. Matilda Santoro's journey illuminates a sacred truth. Your resistance to life's fluctuations determines your energetic reception more than the fluctuations themselves. For years, Matilda believed that a single bad day could unravel her entire manifestation process. She would meticulously track her emotions, terrified that a moment of frustration or sadness would permanently derail her dreams. Each unexpected challenge felt like a personal failure, a sign that the universe was somehow working against her. But true alignment is not about maintaining a perfect emotional state. It is about understanding that every experience, whether labeled as positive or negative, carries an essential frequency of refinement. Your contrast creates clarity. Just as a sculptor chips away at marble to reveal the beautiful form within, your challenges are chiseling your true manifestation. One ordinary Tuesday, when a client canceled unexpectedly and her morning coffee spilled across her favorite white blouse, Matilda noticed something different within herself. Instead of spiraling into panic, she took a deep breath. She remembered that these moments are not obstacles, but redirections. The universe does not punish. It guides. Each seeming setback is a gentle recalibration, a whispered invitation to realign with your truest path. Matilda began to see her challenges not as roadblocks, but as intricate signposts, each one illuminating a more precise route to her desires. Bernard Caputo's story echoed this wisdom. A project manager who had weathered countless professional shifts, he realized that every rejected proposal, every unexpected team restructuring had ultimately guided him toward opportunities far more aligned with his genuine purpose. What once felt like failure was, in truth, a sophisticated navigation system. Your energy is a living, breathing compass. When you trust its movements, even and especially during moments of apparent disruption, you unlock a profound understanding. Setbacks are not punishments. They are precise adjustments. They are the universe's way of realigning you with a path more magnificent than your limited perspective could initially comprehend. The key is not to resist these moments, but to breathe into them, to recognize that your worth is not determined by external circumstances, but by your ability to remain centered, curious, and open. As the chapter concludes, an invitation emerges. Practice blessing every detour as a secret steering mechanism and feel immediate calm. Whisper gratitude for each unexpected shift. Recognize that what seems like a diversion is often the most direct route to your deepest desires. Feel the immediate tranquility that comes from trusting the unseen hand guiding your journey. Chapter 23. The Presence That Heals. In the intricate landscape of your inner world, healing is not a battle, but a remembrance. You are not a victim of circumstance, but a living symphony of energy constantly responding to your deepest vibrations. When Elena Vitagliano first confronted her chronic illness, she saw herself as a prisoner of genetic fate, her body a landscape of limitations and pain. But something profound shifted when she began to understand that every cell listens, every tissue remembers, and your internal atmosphere shapes your physical reality more powerfully than any external condition. Elena discovered that illness was not a punishment, but a messenger, a subtle communication from your body asking you to realign, to listen, to restore balance. She started by speaking to her body with kindness. Instead of fighting against her symptoms, she began to understand them. Each ache became a whisper, each pain a signal requesting attention. She learned to breathe into her discomfort, not with resistance, but with compassionate awareness. Her meditation transformed from a rigid practice of control to a fluid dance of acceptance. Slowly, imperceptibly, her inner landscape began to change. The tension that had gripped her muscles started to dissolve. Her breath became deeper, more rhythmic. Where once there was struggle, now there was gentle curiosity. Then came Harold Romano, a man whose fatigue had become so normalized that he had forgotten what true vitality felt like. His transformation began with a simple yet profound practice: morning appreciation. Each dawn, before the world's demands could claim his attention, he would sit in quiet gratitude. He would thank his heart for its ceaseless beating, his lungs for their rhythmic breath, his legs for supporting him, his hands for their capacity to create and connect. This was not mere positive thinking, but a deep recognition of the miracle that is embodied existence. As Harold's appreciation deepened, something remarkable happened. The heaviness that had draped over him like a worn-out cloak began to lift. His energy, once a flickering candle, became a steady flame. Fatigue, that old companion, started to recede, replaced by a sense of resilience he had never known. The teaching crystallizes with elegant simplicity. Your body is not just a mechanical system, but a responsive, intelligent ecosystem. It does not operate in isolation, but in constant dialogue with your emotional and mental landscape. Wellness is not the absence of illness, but the presence of harmony. Your body knows how to heal. It is always moving towards balance, always seeking restoration. Your role is not to force this process, but to create the conditions for healing to naturally emerge. Practice thanking every part of your body in gentle rhythm, awakening harmony's remembrance. Chapter 24. The Simplicity of Enough. In the vast tapestry of human experience, you stand at the threshold of a profound understanding. Your life, like a river, has been constantly rushing toward distant shores, believing fulfillment resided somewhere beyond the next bend. Charlotte de Rosa embodied this restless pursuit, her mind perpetually fixed on future achievements, always believing happiness waited just beyond the horizon of her current circumstances. Her days were a ceaseless dance of striving, each accomplishment quickly overshadowed by the next goal, each milestone a fleeting moment before the next mountain beckoned. Success seemed to slip through her fingers like water, never allowing her to truly savor the very blessing she had once passionately desired. The transformation began quietly, almost imperceptibly. One evening, as twilight painted soft shadows across her living room, Charlotte paused. She looked around her home, the space she had worked tirelessly to create, and a startling realization emerged. Everything surrounding her represented dreams she had once whispered into the universe, dreams that had now materialized. Her breathing softened. The furniture, the artwork, the very walls held stories of manifested intentions. Each object was a testament to her journey, a silent witness to prayers already answered. In that moment of recognition, gratitude bloomed like a gentle flower, its roots spreading through her entire being. This was not mere passive acceptance, but an active acknowledgement of abundance already present. Enoughness, she discovered, was not a destination, but a state of being. By recognizing the richness already flowing through her life, she recalibrated her internal compass. The magnetic field of her consciousness shifted from constant seeking to profound appreciation. Walter DeMarco embodied this wisdom with elegant simplicity. Each night he would count his joys, not as a mechanical exercise, but as a sacred ritual of recognition. A warm cup of coffee, a kind word from a stranger, the soft rustle of autumn leaves. These became his currency of contentment. And remarkably, the more he appreciated, the more abundance seemed to multiply, as if the universe delighted in responding to his grateful heart. The teaching crystallized with breathtaking clarity. Appreciation is not just an emotional state, but a powerful vibrational tool. When you recognize what is already perfect, you create space for more perfection to enter. Your awareness becomes a beacon, attracting experiences that resonate with your state of gratitude. Practice naming aloud something perfect about now, letting sufficiency hum quietly beneath every breath. Speak one small truth about this moment: the steadiness of a chair beneath you, air moving without effort, a distant sound, the fact that your heart has continued its work unnoticed. Perfection here does not mean flawlessness. It means recognizing something complete as it already is. Naming it aloud interrupts the habit of overlooking what quietly sustains you. Sufficiency often arrives without announcement. It settles beneath ordinary moments, the body carrying you, light entering a room, a pause between tasks. When noticed, these become reminders that not everything valuable depends on improvement, achievement, or change. Some things are enough before they become extraordinary. With each breath, allow that sense of enoughness to remain understated rather than dramatic. A low, steady hum, not forcing gratitude, not denying difficulty, only making room for the possibility that within this exact moment, something whole already exists. Chapter 25. Becoming the Frequency of Love. In the quiet landscape of human connection, you stand at the threshold of a profound revelation. Love is not something you acquire, but a state of being you cultivate from within. Iris Romano discovered this sacred truth when she ceased her relentless pursuit of connection, and instead became the very essence of love itself. For years, Iris had chased relationships with a desperate intensity, believing that finding the right person would complete her. She analyzed every interaction, strategized her approach, and constructed elaborate narratives about why love seemed to elude her. Each failure felt like a personal indictment, a reminder of some perceived inadequacy. But something shifted when Iris stopped demanding love and started radiating it. She began to understand that love is not a transaction, but a frequency, a vibration that calls forth matching energies. Instead of seeking validation from others, she turned inward and nurtured a genuine, unconditional love for herself. This transformation was subtle, yet powerful. Her interactions changed. Where once she approached relationships with tension and expectation, now she moved with genuine warmth and openness. She listened without agenda, smiled without calculation, and embraced each moment with authentic presence. Around the same time, Clyde Lombardi was walking a similar path. Tired of forced connections and awkward social interactions, he decided to experiment. What if he simply greeted people with genuine warmth? What if he saw each stranger as a potential friend, not a potential threat? Clyde began offering sincere smiles, asking genuine questions, and listening with real interest. His energy became an invitation, soft, welcoming, free from any hidden motive. And as if by some unseen orchestration, opportunities for connection began to bloom around him. The universe, ever responsive to your inner state, does not distinguish between your internal experience and external manifestation. When you emit love, you become a beacon. You do not chase love. You become love, and love finds you. This is not about manipulation or technique, but about authentic transformation. Your vibration speaks a language far more eloquent than words. When you radiate love, true, unconditional love, you create a magnetic field that draws compatible energies toward you. Clyde's warmth eventually led him to meet his partner, not through calculated pursuit, but through the natural unfolding that occurs when you are fully present and open. His greeting of strangers was not a strategy, but a genuine expression of his inner state. Practice radiating love softly through imagined golden breath, allowing warmth to spill gently beyond you. Chapter 26. Beyond the Habit of Trying. In the quiet landscape of your inner world, transformation begins not with struggle, but with surrender. You have been taught that achievement requires relentless effort, a constant pushing against the currents of life. But what if the true art of manifestation lies in something far more gentle? Nancy Toscano understood this profound shift after years of exhausting herself. Each morning she would rise with a militaristic determination to try harder, her mind a battlefield of strategies, her body tense with the weight of unmet expectations. Her goals seemed perpetually distant, like mirages shimmering just beyond her grasp. But on one extraordinary morning, something within her softened. Instead of plotting and planning, she simply decided to feel good, not as a strategy, but as a pure, unadulterated choice. She breathed without agenda. She moved without force. She allowed herself to exist without the constant pressure of becoming something more. The universe, ever responsive to your internal rhythms, began to rearrange itself around her newfound ease. Opportunities that had once felt elusive now drifted toward her like autumn leaves on a gentle breeze. Connections materialized without her pushing. Resources appeared without her calculating. The teaching crystallized with elegant simplicity. Trying emanates lack, while allowing radiates fulfillment. Your energy is a broadcasting station, and what you transmit becomes your experienced reality. Gilbert Scarpelli walked a similar path. A man long imprisoned by the iron bars of perfectionism, he discovered liberation when he released his grip on controlling every outcome. He realized that everything was already perfect enough to work, that life flows with an intelligence far beyond human manipulation. Your natural state is not struggle, but harmony. When you cease trying to force rivers, they find their own magnificent course. When you stop demanding that life conform to your narrow blueprint, miracles begin to dance around you. The invitation is simple yet profound. Trust. Trust the intelligence of the moment. Trust the unfolding. Trust that you are fundamentally supported by forces far greater than your individual efforts. Practice replacing effort thoughts with relief thoughts until doing flows on its own current. Notice how often effort arrives with tightening. I have to push harder, force more, carry more. Relief thoughts ask a different question. What if this can be lighter? What if the next step is enough? Replacing strain with gentler assumptions does not remove responsibility. It removes unnecessary friction around it. Action tends to move more freely when the mind stops treating every task as resistance. A relieved thought might sound like, "I only need to begin," or "I can do this imperfectly." These small shifts soften the inner grip, and what once felt heavy may start unfolding with less negotiation. The current was often there already beneath the effort. Over time, doing can become less about willpower and more about alignment. Breathing, walking, speaking, many things function without force because they belong to a rhythm. The invitation is not to abandon effort entirely, but to let ease accompany it until progress feels less like dragging and more like being carried forward. Chapter 27. Alignment over Hustle. You have been chasing success like a relentless hunter, believing that more effort, more hours, and more grinding would unlock the treasure chest of achievement. But what if the key was not in pushing harder, but in aligning your inner rhythm with a gentler, more intuitive flow? Pearl Gianetti knew this struggle intimately. For years she watched peers climb corporate ladders with seeming effortlessness while she toiled in the shadows of her own ambition. Every promotion, every milestone seemed to slip through her fingers, no matter how tightly she gripped her goals. Her turning point arrived not through another strategic plan, but through a profound realization. The most successful people she admired weren't defined by their work ethic, but by their inner state of joy. They moved with an ease that suggested success was less about forceful action and more about harmonious alignment. Pearl began experimenting. Instead of attacking her workday with a warrior's intensity, she started prioritizing her inner landscape. She meditated before meetings, took mindful breaks, and allowed herself to feel content before chasing the next achievement. Surprisingly, her productivity didn't suffer. It flourished. Her colleagues noticed a transformation. Where she once radiated tension, now she emanated a calm confidence. Projects that once felt like battles now unfolded with surprising grace. Opportunities began appearing not through relentless networking, but through genuine connections and a newfound sense of spaciousness. Howard Capaldi's journey mirrored her own. A driven executive known for grueling 14-hour workdays, he discovered that constant grinding produced diminishing returns. By introducing meditation breaks and honoring his natural energy rhythms, he accomplished twice as much with half the effort. The teaching crystallized. Aligned rest is far more potent than frantic effort. When you operate from a place of inner peace, your actions become charged with an intelligent, effortless momentum. You're no longer swimming against the current, but flowing with it. This doesn't mean abandoning ambition, but reimagining its source. Success isn't about conquering external landscapes, but cultivating an internal ecosystem of calm, clarity, and genuine enthusiasm. Practice pausing before work to breathe until eagerness arises, then act swiftly within that window. Chapter 28. The Secret Behind Synchronicity. You stand at the threshold of understanding, where coincidence becomes conversation and chance transforms into choreography. Mabel Ruggiero's journey illuminates a sacred truth. The universe speaks constantly, but only those who listen truly hear. When Mabel first noticed small synchronicities, a book falling open to precisely the page she needed, a stranger mentioning exactly what she'd been thinking, She recognized these were not mere accidents. Each coincidence was a whispered message, a gentle nudge from the invisible realm guiding her path. She began tracking these moments with childlike wonder, a phone call arriving just before she thought of the caller, a song lyric answering an unspoken question, a random encounter that solved a problem she'd been pondering. Instead of dismissing these as random events, Mabel chose to acknowledge them, to say thank you to the unseen orchestrator of her experiences. Her gratitude became a language, a way of conversing with the subtle energies surrounding her. With each recognition, the synchronicities grew more frequent, more precise. They were no longer coincidences but confirmations, evidence that something far more intelligent than random chance was at work. Franklin Perozzi's story echoed a similar revelation. For months, he encountered repeated signs pointing toward a distant city, overheard conversations, magazine articles, unexpected recommendations from strangers. Where he might once have dismissed these as mere chance, he now understood them as guidance. When he finally trusted these signs and relocated, he discovered a sense of peace he'd never known. The synchronicities that led him were not accidents, but invitations, breadcrumbs of intuition laid out by a loving universe eager to support his journey. These experiences reveal a profound teaching. Recognition strengthens the connection between intention and unfolding. By acknowledging the small miracles, you amplify their frequency. You become a willing participant in a dialogue far more intricate than linear logic can comprehend. The practice is simple, yet transformative. Express gratitude for every tiny synchronicity as proof that life converses lovingly with you. When a coincidence appears, no matter how small, pause. Whisper, "Thank you." Feel the quiet magic of being heard, of being guided, of being supported by forces beyond your immediate perception. Chapter 29. Living as the Flow Itself. You stand at the threshold of a profound realization, one that has eluded generations of seekers. Synchronicity is not a magical occurrence that happens to you, but a natural expression of your fundamental connection with the universe. Gladys Romano's journey reveals a truth both simple and extraordinary. You are not separate from the grand tapestry of existence, but an integral thread weaving its own perfect pattern. For years, Gladys had chased moments of alignment like a traveler hunting mirages. She plotted, planned, and pushed, believing synchronicity was something to be captured. But true understanding emerged when she stopped trying to control the flow and recognized herself as the flow itself. In that moment of surrender, something shifted. The boundary between her individual self and the vast intelligence of the universe dissolved. She wasn't watching life happen. She was life happening. Her breath, her thoughts, her movements, all became expressions of a greater rhythm. Virgil Passaretti understood this principle through his own transformation. Once driven by desperate need and constant striving, he learned to act from a place of inherent connection. When he stopped seeing himself as a separate entity struggling against life, opportunities began to arrive with effortless precision. Timing became not something he manipulated, but something he embodied. This is the secret whispered by ancient wisdom traditions. You are not a limited being trying to navigate an external world. You are a dynamic expression of the universe, constantly communicating and co-creating. Every thought, every breath carries the potential of alignment, when you recognize your fundamental unity. The practice is not about achieving something, but about remembering what you already are. As you sit in quiet reflection, let these words resonate. I am the flow. Feel the subtlety of this statement. It's not a mental concept, but a living experience. Sense how the air moves through you, how thoughts arise and dissolve, how your heartbeat pulses in harmony with unseen currents. Practice affirming I am the flow silently, while sensing unity with all motion around you. Silently repeating I am the flow can become less a statement of control and more a reminder of participation. Breath enters and leaves, sounds rise and fade, thoughts appear and pass. Movement is already happening everywhere. The phrase gently shifts attention from standing apart from life to noticing yourself within its ongoing rhythm. Unity with motion does not require grand experiences. It may be felt in a fan turning, traffic moving beyond a window, shadows changing with light, or the subtle pulse within your own body. Observing these without separating your movement from everything else can soften the feeling of constant striving against the world. Held quietly, I am the flow need not mean dissolving individuality. It can mean recognizing that change, growth, rest, and uncertainty are shared conditions. In that awareness, there may be less resistance and more willingness to move with what unfolds rather than against it. Chapter 30. The Power Shift Embodied. You stand at the threshold of understanding, where Lucille Ferrante's journey illuminates the profound truth of universal alignment. Her awakening was not a sudden burst, but a gentle unfolding, a remembrance that life's different domains are not compartments, but vibrations dancing in harmonious symphony. Lucille had spent years believing work was struggle, love was complicated, and peace was a distant destination. But in one luminous moment, she recognized these were not separate landscapes, but resonant frequencies of the same universal energy. Her professional endeavors, her relationships, her inner tranquility, all were simply different expressions of the same underlying current. The power shift revealed itself not as a technique, but as a living breath. It was the understanding that thought, when merged with unwavering faith, becomes the very fabric of reality. Lucille's transformation wasn't about controlling outcomes, but about trusting the intelligence of the universe to orchestrate her experience. Angelo DeSantis, witnessing her journey, reflected on his own path. He saw with crystalline clarity that what once appeared as delays were actually precise interventions, sacred moments of protection and redirection. Each seemingly blocked path was actually a gentle guidance system, steering him toward his truest alignment. Their stories intertwined like golden threads, weaving a tapestry of grace. They understood that resistance creates friction, while acceptance creates flow. The universe, they realized, was not an adversary to be conquered, but an intelligent system responding to their innermost vibrations. In this state of expanded awareness, Lucille and Angelo embodied a profound truth. Life responds not to our words, but to our fundamental energy. Their journeys demonstrated that when you align your inner frequency with trust, miracles do not just happen, they become your natural state of being. Practice closing your eyes nightly, whispering, "Everything is easy now," and trust the soft current to carry tomorrow. If you enjoyed this audiobook, I created a free ebook version for you. You can download it using the link in the pinned comment. Conclusion. You stand at the threshold of understanding, where the power shift reveals itself not as a technique to master, but as a profound remembrance of your true nature. This is not about controlling life, but about recognizing the intrinsic rhythm that pulses through every living system, from the smallest atom to the most expansive galaxy. The universe is not an external force waiting to be manipulated, but a responsive field that mirrors your internal state. Your vibration is the conductor, and your consciousness is the orchestra. Every thought, every subtle feeling sends ripples through this infinite intelligence, rearranging possibilities around your fundamental frequency. Struggle emerges when you forget this fundamental truth. You are not separate from the creative principle. You are the creative principle experiencing itself through human form. Alignment is not something to achieve, but a state to return to, like remembering a language you once spoke fluently. When nothing seems to work, it means you have disconnected from your natural state of flow. The resistance you feel is not a sign of failure, but an invitation to realign. Surrender is not passive submission, but the highest form of intelligence, a willingness to trust the unseen orchestration of life. Your power lies not in forcing outcomes, but in cultivating a state of receptive trust. Every moment offers a choice, to struggle against the current or to float with graceful intention. The symphony of creation plays continuously. Your task is simply to attune yourself to its melody. Choose your inner tone carefully. Let ease be your default. Let trust be your navigation. Let love be your frequency.
If you enjoyed this exclusive audiobook, I handpicked this next book which will change your life.